Good evening. Welcome to the live stream tonight and the show with Tim Scott, who's joining us tonight. And could you please share this video and subscribe to Children's Matter and join Anchor. Welcome, Tim. Can you give us a little bit of a background check on why you went into the army and how you were growing up and stuff like that? What made you want to join the army and serve the country?
First and foremost, I come from a family which is mainly from Northern Ireland, so Ulster. So traditionally, throughout my family, a lot of people served. It's quite a natural avenue for me to go down. I grew up in London in working class areas, from East London, parts of South London, moved around quite a bit, but mainly East. And it was just a natural sort of avenue. And I always wanted to be a soldier, but on the concept of that, I saw it as a profession more than a situation that I just went into because there was nothing else. Does that make sense? So yeah. I really wanted to go down that avenue to serve the country because of what my family had done through both world wars and all the way up, kind of thing. It's very pushed into Ulster families, even though my father wasn't part of my life. He wasn't a huge part of my life. It was still promoted that we serve in the military, you know. And if you had a bit of education, then hopefully you would go as an officer or something like that. But in my case, no. And I mean that because I grew up with my mum. I was a cleaner at the age of 15. We had to work extra hard to put money on the table at the time, so I didn't have that opportunity, if you like. But I definitely made up for it for later on when I did join the military. So yeah, really, it was because I wanted to serve the country in that respect, but I also wanted a professional career. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. What tours did you do while serving in the army?
Afghan. I also went numerous places, the normal sort of routes, if you like, if you're serving in, like I served in the Grenadier Guards, infantry regiment. It is Kenya, Falklands, because we still have patrols on the Falklands even to this day. Canada, geez, I'm trying to think of all the places. Belize I've been to. Numerous places that I've been to. But obviously I was in Afghan 2009 to 2010, which was considered the quite rough period of Afghanistan, if you like. Yeah. So,
and you also served as a volunteer, didn't you?
Yeah, when I came out, I worked as a security contractor when I came out from 2012 and sort of worked around the world for the highest bidder, if you like. Well, you know, it wasn't like that as such. It was more, I worked for British companies, I worked for Korean companies, and yeah, we used to get a lot of money for doing basic security jobs, if you like, or convoys, or maritime. I worked a lot in maritime security. So, you know, the Horn of Africa, you've got obviously Somalia and those troubled waters at the time. There was a lot of money in maritime security. You could earn up to 300 quid a day. So I've done a lot of that. But then in 2015, I kind of got fed up with it all. And I really wanted to do something again that was sort of proactive and made a difference. And I saw a lot of people in the UK moaning about terrorism, you know, at the time, and the increase of radicalisation within communities. And I thought, you know what, my skills here, or even abroad doing those high-paid jobs, need to be used somewhere else, you know. And that's why I volunteered to go with the Kurdish forces to fight against ISIS. Like,
fair play, Joe. Yeah, spot on. I just wish there was more people like you who would actually stand up for what is actually right like that. And I think that's a problem we've got with this country at the moment. There's not enough people awake to what the situation is going on at the present time. Like, so.
Yeah.
But
definitely. It's difficult, mate, because like even when I went there, like even a lot of my friends thought I was mad, and they're people I've served with, you know. But I generally had like this is the thing that gets misconceived, and I think the my favourite bloody rivals, Hope No Soap. They done an article on me and said, you know, I was just some like tapped up lunatic. Do you know what I mean? Like that for me was a right sort of. I've had loads of shit, you know, off the left, if you like, and I've just ignored it. But that for me was just such a piss take, really, because I really generally, hand on heart, went there because I'm a father, and there was kids getting raped by ISIS. There was women being raped, you know, and you know, ISIS were molesting and killing children that weren't even not even in their teens. You can't even begin to understand that horror, you know.
Yeah.
And that's generally why I went there. Generally 100%. I just couldn't. I didn't want that to happen to anybody across the world, no matter who you are, you know, whatever you are. Yeah, and that was a huge reason, was basically to try and, okay, it's just me with an AK and a few others. Did we make a difference? I'll never know. But what I do know is I wanted ISIS at that time to understand that there's people like myself that don't have an ideology, that are willing to fight against people that are radicalised, i.e. themselves. We're willing to stand up. And that's all. I wanted them to see that. Do you know what I mean? I wanted them to really feel that they can't get away with it, that there will be repercussions. And people like myself and many others, you know, have done a lot more than me, went chasing these bastards, I'll put it bluntly.
Yeah, well done to you, mate. Well done to you.
That's for fact. Like
A lot of courage, and that's what I think we need with the British people at the moment is courage to do what's right now. It's getting a little bit ridiculous, really. What's your views on the persecution of soldiers A to Z in Northern Ireland?
I just think it's an absolute farce, really, that this is happening, and it has been again motivated by money from these law firms and such things, also by an anti-establishment agenda that drags veterans into it. And this is where it's really unfair, because I'm actually anti-establishment, you know what I mean? But drag us into it because they feel, you know, I'm talking about the far left here, that, you know, sort of at higher level, that they feel that it's a way of kicking the teeth of the establishment when it's not. And for me, I just feel so sorry for the guys, especially the guys, obviously, from the Northern Ireland conflict, who served over there, who done so much for, especially I can relate to it because my family, the community and stuff like that in Ulster. It's unbelievable, mate. I never thought I'd see the day, but there is evil, really evil people in the media, in these law firms, in, you know, just everywhere, in every aspect now.
Yeah, well, it's government, it's the police, it's every form of establishment, social services. It just goes on, and it's just unbelievable. Like what I can actually see, like of what's actually going on. But the thing is, with the vets, they're in their 70s, for Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean? How can you give immunity to terrorists, the IRA, and then start prosecuting our vets 40 odd years later? I just don't understand the mentality of it.
Yeah, and the Good Friday Agreement, you know, that is, like you said there, has let like IRA members walk on the streets. I've had family members killed by the IRA, you know, and it makes me so angry, to be honest. It's like it's almost done on purpose to wind, you know, patriots again. It is patriots. It's the Ulster community, very patriotic, and the rest of the patriotic community to wind people up, and the veterans community. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. Right.
But because what they don't understand is these other the other wars you've been to, like Afghan, Iraq, they will bring that up. They've said they won't. Versus said they won't, but they will. They'll bring it back up. And if they think the other establishments, like the police and everything, if they think they can't get prosecuted, they've got another thing coming, like, because it will happen to them as well. And they've got to realise it's coming, like.
It's a shockwave.
Yeah.
And you got a good point there, because like the police think they're immune to this.
Yeah, they do, but they're not going to be.
Because as we've seen in America, with everything that's going on there, with how that started, okay, now you see, there was a case where I think, did you see that guy that went? He was drunk and he fell asleep in one of those drive-throughs. And he tried running away, and they tasered him, and they used escalation, but they then shot him. Now he's lost his job. He's getting done for it. The policeman who shot this guy, but he used escalation of what they have in the American police force. Now I'm not saying it was right. All I'm saying is this is a knock-on effect in years to come, down to the British police who think they can get away with things. They will be heavily persecuted if they tackle somebody that is, how to put this, somebody that is of a different colour, basically. Because now they're going to be very wary. So their job and how they act is very, very different, because they're going to think, hang on, I can't stop this guy, because he's just going to turn around to me and go, you only stop me because I'm a certain colour. And when law should be equal for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, this is the effect, and it will have a huge effect on the police, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The nonce catchers have mentioned Tim Wilson needs your voice.
Step forward, but I haven't personally, apart from recently, I haven't seen it on a mass scale. I've had times I've stood and I've been like, where is everybody? Like, where are other veterans? and it's felt lonely. But even though I do have the support in the background and people, I've felt very alone in that community. Not lately, because obviously with what's gone on, it's sort of put people over the edge. But the past is the past. But I think now it would be great to see more veterans speaking out and taking the reins on different things within their communities, because we hold a lot of skills where we can be good community leaders. I don't mean like a leader of a group. I mean just a community leader. We can organise. We can get things done, and I think those skills need to be utilised hugely.
Yeah, I think you're right, spot on with that, with councillors and stuff like that going into local councils and standing for local elections, because then they can make a difference. And I think the vets, the community, they won't be going in there for the money issue, like a lot of the councillors who get elected, for the backhanders and everything else. I honestly think that the vets, if they decided to stand in local councils, they'd get a lot of support from the local communities. And I think that's what they should be doing. But what bothers me about the vets movement is there's a lot of groups out there and they're not willing to unite. I've been to like Green Park, and it was at Green Park itself, there was like half vets and half civilians. And the groups can't come together. The only time I saw the Rolling Thunder one coming over the bridge was 30,000 bikers. That was awesome. That's the bikers community coming together for the Rolling Thunder. But if all these different groups could come together, what was it, 120 to 140 groups? They could actually make a change for the benefit of the country. But they just can't seem to get together, can they?
No, because I think what a lot of that is to do with as well is this is where I always say to people that try to ignore what the media say, even though, like for instance, recently, you saw the media go harp on about the right wing. Now, the veterans community is very scared of being labelled under that umbrella. Now, my view, and it is only my view as a patriot, I don't care about that umbrella because that is the media. For me, they're irrelevant, and that is how we have to see it. They are irrelevant. They are just a propaganda tool. Like Nazi Germany used propaganda. They used leaflets. They used, groups and community groups to speak to people. That's what this is. That's all you have to look at like that and just say, ignore. It doesn't matter if they call you Nazi, far right. Who cares? The veterans community needs to be able to move and forget about that and just say, no, well, we're not. We know who we are. Sod it. If you want to call us that, whatever, and crack on.
I just think that's a defense mechanism by the far left, by calling us names and stuff, because they can't actually win an argument or a debate, and it's a way of putting us down. And it's the same with the media. They're exactly the same. Like it's just bullshit. All the media that you see on the TV and the news, it's all there for a reason, and make you to go down a certain narrative for the government, which is
like a lot of it is to divide and conquer, because obviously there's a lot of, even though there's a lot of vets out there that don't want to be classed as far right or Nazi, there's a lot of civilians out there that don't want to be classed as far right and civilian Nazi. So straight away, even though if they agree with you, they're going to back off and disagree with you, so people don't look at them and go, "Oh, you're fucking racist."
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we have to really move away from that and be completely don't even entertain mainstream media. Don't share art. Don't do anything within the patriotic movement. Ignore it, because it is against you. And I've always said that people need to understand that the left is used for the mainstream because it's easier to manipulate. A movement like that, like Antifa and so forth, because they are brainwashed. So when the media say something, they believe that. Whereas we challenge things, and that's more democratic, I see it as anyway. Patriot, more democratic than obviously communists, as I refer to them as, and that's what they are. They can call themselves socialists, but socialism is just a waiting room for communism. I've always thought it that way.
Just stepping stone.
Yeah, that's all it's designed all throughout history. The Bolshevik Revolution, It was designed as a stepping stone or a waiting room for communism. And that's what these people want. So for me, just ignore that. Like, veterans community just need to think, whatever you are politically, centralist, slightly to the right, whatever you are, maybe you're a centralist left, it doesn't matter. We can just work together, forget, them labeling us, and just crack on with what we've got to do.
Absolutely. What did you think about the two-tier policing system that we had in London on that Saturday when we went to go and to protect the memorials?
Yeah.
That has to be a question asked.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the vets didn't see that side of it until then, what actually happens. Whenever we've gone on protests, we're always probably outnumbered 2-1 with the police. And they do put their riot gear on. Like the week before, they went to the BLM protests where they got all those injuries with the police. It's a two-tier policing system.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know your views on that.
For me, it shows a clear agenda, right? That when the police have to come out in quadruple the force of what they use for a small amount of numbers as well, shall we say, that shows that they are enforcing political ideology by using the police. That is pretty clear now, because they're saying if you think this way, then you are a terrible person. But if you think your way, this lefty sort of system of which is manipulated by the higher powers or whatever, it just goes to show that. Now, a lot of veterans probably didn't realise till that day how barbaric the police can be. This is where I differ, I suppose, and I've had not arguments but heated debates over this with other veterans, where they say, no, the police, they are a force, so they're sort of like considered as like you have the army, the police, the ambulance, and so forth, firemen, and considered, that kind of community. But I've said to them, through all my years, I think I've met 2 policemen that shook my hand off camera and said, "Fair play to you, mate, keep going." In all my years of doing this, all demonstrations that I've been to, I've had about probably 100 that have just hated me and tried to whack me. So that really tells you it all, For me, they're not on our side, but it's not always their fault. It's their higher being, as we saw, didn't we, in London, when we had the aggressive TSG
who charging at us.
Yeah, and stopping us and stuff. That just goes to show that actually they're people that are higher up are totally disillusioned with what's going on. They're either disillusioned or they're part of this bigger picture. And I would say it's the second thing. But, if they're disillusioned, that's probably more worrying because they really don't know what's going on, So, yeah, for me, I'm not a big fan. Even though they can have the one that does the little talking and says, "Oh, we're on your side. We're veterans. We are with you." He's just doing a bit of peace talking,
A puppet, taking his wage and doing what he's told.
Yeah.
And
if they were real people, they would leave that job now and they would stand down and sod their pensions. If they had a heart, if they had a true heart. And I'm telling you now, hand on heart, on my daughter's life, if I was a policeman, I would have walked off the job and I wouldn't care about my pension. I swear on my life. I would have left because it's just not fair what they're doing. And they see it. They must see it. As human beings, they must see it.
Of course they do. They were bending down on one knee, the week before, and they were running from the protesters. It's obviously there's another agenda here, and it's going to be shocking, I think, the next few years. And it's going to be a completely different society to what we've known it.
Well, I think we've had a bit of a rough year, haven't we? What was it? We had storms, didn't we? Especially around our neck of the woods. We had serious storms, didn't we? And then it went into COVID. And then what was it? A couple of terrorist attacks, didn't it? And now this, and you just yourself, 2020 has to end.
Yeah. Well, we're locked in our houses. It was the nicest weather we've had for about, what, 20, 30 years. Jimmy, it's just wrong, like, isn't it?
Yeah, the whole year is just needs to be written off, for one of the worst years. And I also see as well with this BLM stuff, this is not going away ever.
No.
Yeah. Because it can't go away, and it's quite a clever tactic by Marxist, ideologies that have really sort of ramped this up. That they've stuck it into the system now, and it can never go away. I saw a thing earlier where it was talking about football players, but it was talking about football coaches. There wasn't enough, ethnic minorities or whatever in football coaching. That's all, well and good, but you can't do it in every member of society, because we have to remember that let's be generous here, only 4% of the community in the UK is actually black.
Yeah.
So how can we cater for it's not being rude, it's just best person for the job. Like how can we cater for that? It's tiring.
People's got to see the percentage wise, like, instead of numbers, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. If you want like a representation of the country, then you would say, okay, in most jobs you want to, I don't know, for instance, aim to have 4% of the black community within that job, because it represents 4% of the country.
Yeah.
You can't have these figures of where they're forcing things through and lowering or hiring standards, whatever it may be. I'm not saying anybody of a different race is stupid or anything. What I'm saying is it's actually quite insulting, I think, to people to say we need to put this in place so you can work in this job, when I'm best man or woman for the job, regardless if he's next to me and the guy's black and he's got a better CV than me, he gets the job. Yeah. Happy days. I'm not going to start complaining,
Yeah.
I just find it stressful.
Yeah, that's fairness, that is. I mean, if somebody's got a better qualifications than you, you should have the job. As simple as that, regardless of colour or race. And that's it. But what I got a slight problem with is our government is still importing immigrants into our country, and that's pretty shocking at this day and age. They still come in by boats or back of lorries, and the police are just, and our government are just putting them up and at it instead of sending them back. And a lot of these people are on watch lists, which are coming into our country, and they're all male, young. I don't see lots of photos of children and women on boats or anything like that. It's just getting a little bit out of hand, I think. And we're probably only told about 10% of what's coming in every day. And
exactly.
That's what the shocking part is.
Just remember, you're getting told as well. We are getting told, if you're not 2 meters apart, you can get a fine. So if you've got someone coming from the other side of the world, how does that make any sense, Yeah. And I don't know how the government does not see that as a problem.
Yeah.
That they don't literally say,
it's going to be outlawed, and it's looking quite bleak for our country at the moment, unless we do get people to actually stand. And I don't think by the election system, I know it's democratic, it's going to work, because they keep on getting elected all the time, these people. And we keep on putting them into power. So at the end of the day, it's our fault, but we have to change perspective of everybody else's minds. We have to change their minds to it, because like Paul will tell you, they've been conditioned.
Yeah.
We have got a choice, and we can elect different people into power.
Yeah. But like for myself, I personally think we're being conditioned to think that we're having a say by them allowing us to vote. Like at the end of the day, we know the government doesn't run the country, that they're just there as puppets. And it's the same as like if you're working, you've got managers, supervisors. Your manager don't come to you and tell you what to do. He goes to your supervisor, lets your supervisor tell you. So he's your point of contact. So if it goes tits up, you scream at your supervisor, not your manager. And it's the same with the government. So I can't see the hierarchy having so many different forms and suitcases to whoever gets elected. Like that's just stupid. So it's all a game from the start to get you into that conditioned mindset.
Yeah, no, well put, mate. Yeah, exactly it. And it's almost like a theatre.
Yeah.
You know, watch this. Look, you have a say. You have a say. We saw it with. I've never honestly been a fan of really UKIP, but they've done some good things. Obviously, Nigel Farage did to get us. Well, not out of Europe, are we? But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To attempt to get us out of Europe. You saw when they got 4 million votes, what happened there. The first past the post system is the most corrupt system in Europe, in European politics. If you talk about the whole European, you know, all the countries, Poland, all these countries, our first past the post system is corrupt. It will never let small parties actually enter into politics. It's virtually impossible. So you're always going to have the Conservative Party and Labour Party like they do in America, Republican, Democrat. It's the same thing, just a different view.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, I don't even vote. I think you saw what I put on my last voting ballot. I won't repeat some stuff I put, but I put an Ulster and then I just put that in. But
yeah,
it's a shame because when you think our ancestors fought for us to have the vote and live in a proper democracy, I think what you said there, Phil, where you said, I think you touched on that it was our, it is our fault. And I don't mean us here. I mean, it generally is the population's fault for thinking that democracy is something that you just, we've got democracy, cool, with feet up, let's just crack on. It has to be fought for every day of our life for it to continue into a nice format. And what people have done is gone, we got democracy, lovely. So what people have hijacked it. It's going to happen. Humans are horrible people. Hence why I love animals more. But, so, that's what I see.
Yeah, I think with the MEP election, that did prove that voting system does work to a certain degree. Like, I mean, they got a lot of seats in. But what I'm afraid of in this country is, like in Wales, a lot of them were Labour supporters. They probably lost a couple of seats in the last election, but they're in a mindset of voting for the same party generation after generation. And I think that needs to be changed. We need to change people's idea about that, because that's what's ruining our country at the moment. They're not looking at the bigger picture of other parties or independents that could actually do a lot of good.
Yeah.
They're getting missed.
Well, I think we have a tradition here is we can be loyal to things like football teams. Sounds silly. Yeah. People become loyal to the Labour Party or the Conservative, and it's ridiculous, really, because you think it's not a football team. Yeah. They're there to represent you. It doesn't mean, if they're a terrible party, then they're a terrible party, and you need to move on. Otherwise, they're just going to do terrible things. If they've got loyal people, they're going to do terrible things, unfortunately.
Yeah, and keep on following.
Yeah. No. So at the moment, like obviously, we're seeing a lot of stuff for BLM because of what happened with George over in America. Do you want to give us a little bit of insight of what your thoughts are?
Oh, how long is it?
That's on the spot, mate. That's it. That's not me. That's it.
No, it's with BLM, all of this, all right, it was a genuine concern. I think it's something that's been built up in America for years. They have, throughout history, had a different approach to differences, should we say, like that, and I just don't see how something over there has spiraled out of control here, where we went from, looking at it on the news, thinking, oh my God, look at those riots in America and stuff like that, to then having it on our streets, to then going to people destroying war memorials and pulling down history. Now, what I would definitely say is this has been manipulation of the middle class. Now, I call it just a out-and-out class war. Forget colour at this point. This is a class war. This is middle class communists who later on grow up to be conservatives, by the way, because they realise they've got to pay too much tax. So they then go, shit, I've got a second house. I need to pay less tax. Yeah. I'm not conservative, but you know what I mean. These kind of people have stirred it, and they've stirred it, and they've stirred it, and it's almost insulting that they've used the black community to further a Marxist ideology, of which most of us working class patriots have more in common with the working class black people of this country than they ever could do. And this is where they've just divided us. I think, Phil, do you remember me saying in front of all those police when we were in London about that? Yeah, do you remember that black guy shook my hand when I said to him, we grew up on the same estates, but yet you've divided us? And I was pointing to the police and obviously further, which was Antifa. For me, it's just manipulation of a situation. And what we've got to always keep in mind, and like I try and keep this in my head, is these people are communists, not the BLM, but parts of the BLM and the fractions that are in there now. The only way they grasp power in their mentality, their ideology, is to actually, create chaos. They don't believe democracy. So they're creating chaos. That's what they want to do. And then override what they believe. They can override the system and then bring in a communist manifesto, socialist manifesto, a hardline one. And I really see it as just manipulation of people. And that is what I see the whole situation, manipulation of working class people.
I think the BLM movement, it started out to be, it was meant to be for the good, but they got infiltrated with Antifa, the Muslim Defense League, Hamas, and all those sort of groups. And now I personally think they're going to start losing support. Well, I'm hoping they're going to start losing support because they've got like terrorist organizations within the movement. And the sooner the normal working class people who go out there to support them wakes up and sees it, then they're going to realize they're being used and puppets for something which is a lot more darker than what they actually think it is, because it is going to lead us down a one very dark street, I think, with BLM at the moment. But any thoughts about how we can change that or change their minds to the majority of people who support them?
For the people that support them, the only way is for people in working class communities to actually reach their hand out and have debate. But the problem you've got with that is you can't do that, because we've seen now, even if you identify as a patriot, you've got a mob rule on you, kicking the hell out of you, stabbing you, because they're that wound up that there is no debate anymore. So to be honest, I think it has to ride itself out until the people inside, like you said there, Phil, the people inside actually recognise that, hang on, who's this little, I'll be blunt about this, who's this white kid behind me who speaks, the Queen's English, telling us to fight, throw, I don't know, bricks and stuff. Until they see that, then it won't stop until they actually notice what's going on with people, groups like Antifa that infiltrate these movements. They honestly do not. People watching this probably realize they do not care. They hate the working class. They hate us, and they hate patriots especially. And any way they can try and stop us, they will use anybody and throw them under the bus. And I just hope the working class sort of communities come together. I'm talking from a London point of view. It's different in different areas around the country. But from a London point of view, it would be nice for them to just come together and say, do you know what? Actually, it's you lot. You idiots that run around threatening to kill my mum before, masked up. And then when they get home, near their house that, in a middle class suburb somewhere, they take off their black clothing and then tell their mum that they've been over their mate, Dean's house for cucumber sandwiches. That's what we're dealing with, these manipulators. And I really, truly hate them. You can tell. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm waffling. Yeah.
Because I just feel sorry for the decent black guys out there thinking that they're following the name Black Lives Matter when they don't understand. Obviously, BLM is an organisation and there's a method behind them. Because obviously, when we were down at Churchill Monday and Tuesday before the big Saturday, we had loads of debates with different people, and as soon as you said to them BLM is an organisation, the shock on their faces was unreal. And then it was only on the Tuesday, obviously they done the march to Churchill, and then you had about 10, 15 radicals in between them, and you could see the difference. Yeah, the most majority of them wants to fight for what they're fighting for. But then you've got the radical side of it, that they just don't care, and they just want blood out of the white man.
Yeah. And this is where actually it's a good point, Paul. People are, there is no difference between that racism.
No.
That racism of black racism on white. And that's where we fail as a society to understand that equality has to work across the board. I always use that term. And when you come to the table, you have to have equality between us all. You can't never segregate one part of society, as we've learned from the past. You can't segregate one part of society and expect them just to go, do you know what, shut up. Especially 80%, I take off 30% of the lunatics, lefty lunatics, extremists. Just say 30. The rest of us, the majority, you can't expect us to stay silent. You can't expect as well the guy that sits at home in London who's seen his whole surroundings change through generations and not get mad when he's getting called, a white boy or something like that. He's going to get mad. And then you create radicalization. And that's where I truly believe they want to create a far right. Yeah. They really are, because they don't have it. They literally do not have it. Yeah. They have a patriotic movement, which is a big difference, all right, regardless of our political views. They really want to create that to make a divide and conquer where they can move around the chessboard and say, because they're missing that at the moment. Yeah. That's the only piece on the chessboard they ain't got, all right, really, really got. And that's why they call us far right and stuff like that, because they want to move us around and say, oh, look at these terrorists now, Muslims blowing things up. Oh, look at these Black Lives Matters, stabbing this white fella. Oh, look at this white, far right stabbing this black guy. And it's just boom, 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 boom. Complete control.
Absolutely. And I think this is what people's got to understand as well. So even though they're trying to radicalize their own people, at the same time, they're radicalizing our kids, because it's our kids that's getting, well, you're racist. Our kids ain't educated in knowing what racism or racist is anymore. All they know is what they hear. So when you've got someone constantly down their throat, you're white, so you're racist, it's going to turn them into that type of thing, because they're going to put their fingers up and say, do you know what, go fuck yourself then.
Yeah, exactly it. Yeah, they're going to be like, well, sod it then. If they're growing up now. Like when I grew up in London, for example, we would have Asian friends, black friends and that, but we would never, I wouldn't even contemplate colour.
No.
Because that's how we grew up. But now I would hate to grow up.
Yeah.
Because now you are that white kid, or that kid is that black kid, or that kid is that brown kid. Do you know what I mean? Because they've took it back there, and I don't know why. Well, we know why they've done it to control us, but
because that's what I say to people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when I was growing up, you was told if you single someone out because of their race or culture or whatever, then you're racist. So you class everyone as one. But now all you see in the media is the black man, the white man, the black woman, the white woman. Yeah, it's conditioning you to think that that's what the road you've got to go down, and then before you know it, they spin it and put the racist tag on your fucking head, like.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like adverts, you have to have a certain people in that advert, otherwise it's considered racist. It's like it is literally ridiculous, and it's conditioning us. And you're right, it's conditioning us to identify race rather than identify, I don't know, human beings.
Yeah,
and they're doing it definitely on purpose.
No, because is it George Foreman? I can't think.
George Floyd.
No. No. One of the black actors, like, and like he got interviewed a couple of years back, and they said to him, "How do we stop racism?" And he said, "Well, stop fucking talking about it." And it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah. Simple.
So true. Yeah.
As soon as we started talking about it, because of BLM lot, it's just gone absolutely bonkers. People are starting to become racist and stuff like that, and have put this country back so many years to get back for where we were standing already. I don't believe there was racism in this country at all. Not when I went to school, anyway. And I'm sure they weren't racist when you went to school either.
No, they generally 100% wasn't.
No.
I think we came far from the 1950s, when you had Caribbean people come over here and stuff and help rebuild the country after the war. And I remember growing up, and literally in all the Caribbean friends I had, you'd go into their house. I tell you what, their mums were so patriotic. Picture the Queen, Jamaican families and that. Yeah. Picture the Queen. If you disrespected the Queen, you got a whack. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They really patriotic people. But that has changed again with the infiltration at lower level council, and lower even than that level of politics, which I believe has infiltrated the whole system. So the left knew they could never gain power quickly or by a huge number. So they went into council level. And now where you see things being passed and things moving to and fro in communities, it's all left leaning to the point of Marxism, i.e. where you get a councillor who says this should be removed, this statute. That's all low level politics. People don't realise that it's not the top politicians. This is the thousands of low-level councillors that we have that are infiltrated into the system by the left. And they are literally ruling everything by low-level politics. They don't even need to be in power, because you can see Boris ain't got no power. No matter who's in power. It's low-level council that have power in our local communities, and they're destroying the place.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you probably had the right idea. Get the veterans community to start standing for local elections and trying to get the support behind them before the elections, the council elections do actually start. Like, we need all these people replaced. We need everything changed, everything, including the voting system, because it is so unfair.
Yeah,
because you're only going to get two parties into power anyway. It's either going to be Labour or the Conservatives, and they're both as bad as each other as well.
Yeah.
So we need a lot more independence in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're underestimated independents.
Yeah.
Because if they're representing low-level community problems, they can actually win a lot of votes. If, like, I don't know, there's a community centre that hasn't been open, and they're fighting for that community centre. People think, God, this kind of politics is not relevant with everything that's going on. It's hugely relevant, because if you get known in your community for saving that community centre, you are then trusted later on to make the right decisions at council level, wherever it may be, to then guide the community in the correct way. And when I mean that, I don't mean ideology, because I think all of us as patriots have different ideologies. That's the difference. Yeah. The left come under one ideology, of which is very extreme. So You know, maybe that's our downfall at times. Maybe it's not, because sometimes, you know, the amount of arguments we see in patriotic movements and stuff. But at the same time, it's also our strength, because we practice real democracy and they don't. So I definitely think, yeah, council level veterans, if they're not known on social media and, you know, they want to make change, go out there and campaign.
Yeah.
Away from all these groups, away from social media, campaign in your local communities, and you'll make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Huge
Yeah.
difference. I can't do that. You guys probably couldn't do it. Yeah. You know why? Because obviously we've been.
We haven't got the finance for one.
Yeah, well, that's a start.
That's another reason. Money does actually talk, and a lot of these councillors have got money behind them. They're already in a powerful position within their jobs and whatever, and they're financially secure. But if a local independent wants to go in, it costs them quite a bit of money to even stand for election, and then they're going to end up losing their money, because obviously the people who've got the money can do a lot more advertising and recruiting, get people on the streets to get to support them and stuff like that. So yeah, we do need our local independents, and we do need to help them out. I did it with the Brexit Party. I walked the streets, pounded the streets, and put the message out there. But they do struggle with finance. That's the only problem we got. It's the same with government as well. They've got the money, and that is the problem. That's the issue. They've got money, and they'll always win elections. But we've got to change it somehow. We've got to.
I think we have to, and I think it's all. I know it's been said time and time again, but it's going back to town halls, having proper meetings, having social media can be manipulated, like you said there, by money. We also know it can be censored. So, say I stood for, like, I don't know, in politics as independent, suddenly I gained like huge support, that would be quashed.
Yeah,
instantly. So social media is not really relevant in some respects. We've got to go back to, you know, holding proper meetings again, you know, ironing out problems within the community. Like I've always said, one idea that I had that UKIP went on to use, that I was not involved in UKIP, but you know, when I had my videos that were very viral, I had an idea about patriotic unions. And what I meant by that is you have the unions of the left that are involved in workers' rights and so forth. If you had a patriotic version of that, that would be huge, because they are very powerful. Obviously, unions are hugely powerful. And you set that in certain areas, you would make a huge difference. With the fishing community in Cornwall and places like that, those kind of things are where you can make serious change, because they're going to get behind you. They're not interested in some Marxist ideology by the unions. They're more interested in, you know, doing some good in the country, and they're patriotic. So if you had a patriotic union that was for the community and for the fishing community, say in Cornwall, for example, that's going to make a huge difference. Those kind of weapons, if you like, political weapons, are unstoppable.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
what's your thoughts on like child abuse, and like obviously like a lot of people like talk about sexual abuse, mental, physical,
and PTSD,
and obviously PTSD comes into it. Like for myself, like I don't think people don't think outside the box big enough. So like even with you army lads, like if something ever happened to you on tour, then if you've got kids, that has an effect on the child. So that's technically child abuse as well in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? So it's so many things out there that can affect the child. So it to me, like we've all got to stop when we talk about child abuse. We've got to put it all together.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think you guys say this a lot as well, and I think it all stems down to, as you said there, Paul, child abuse.
Yeah. Because
if we are fighting for the next generations, if they are vulnerable in our society, we have failed as a society.
Absolutely.
I believe us people, all of us, have failed in society anyway, because if children are being raped, groomed, abused, and manipulated, and our society is that weak and I mean this respectfully, our society is that weak that we cannot protect them from that, we have failed as a society. For me, child abuse is the number one issue of which we can unite under. Whether you're a veteran, I would put that above veterans issues, way above it. Because when I joined the army, I fought for the next generation, if you like. Okay, the wars were highly illegal, and I can go into all that. But at the end of the day, my principle was to fight for the next generation.
Yeah.
When I went to Kurdistan, it was to protect those Kurdish children. They're nothing to do with me. I've got no DNA of Kurdistan or anything. But they're innocent children in this world who are being abused by radicals. So I think for me, I would easily say that children's lives need to come first, and the community needs to step up, and all the veterans community, everybody, whoever you are, need to step up, and we have failed hugely. It's by letting, it's easy, this is my personal view, it's easy to blame the people that are doing it, and of course they're the monsters. But if we are letting them come within that safety ground that we do not provide as a community, then I think we failed. There's only so much we can do, I know, you know, like people that are active, but I'm talking about the wide community. I believe as a nation, as a culture as well, even at community level, where we don't have community, where we don't look out for each other's kids as well. You know, like when you used to play outside or whatever, and your next door neighbour would come around and go, "Oh, your kid's just run round the corner there. Just make sure she's all right," or whatever, you know, and let you know, or something like that. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
So kids have more of a free reign.
Our kids aren't safe anymore. When I was growing up, you could play in the woods, you could do all sorts of things. I still think paedophilia was still around, but it's gone to a completely different level over the last few decades, I should say.
Yeah.
What really pees me off is I attended a BLM march, and when you see the numbers there, just off for a criminal in America, all right, forget about his race and everything, and they can get numbers like that. And when we're fighting for children, week in, week out, and we can't get nowhere near the numbers, and that's what's disappointing to me, that people won't make a stand. I don't know how we're going to change this, except for uniting, obviously, all different groups all under one banner, and that's all injustices, as far as I'm concerned. But it's getting people to do it is the hard part, I think.
Like for myself, we're all parents, and even if you're not a parent, you've got like niece or nephew, or like your neighbour's kids, yeah, you got close to or whatever. So there's always some sort of parent guidance in you for your community or whatever, you know. And so if we can't stand up for the kids, then who can we stand up for?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the problem is in society is if it doesn't happen to that person or their kids, then it's almost irrelevant to them. And I think that's what needs to change.
Yeah.
The fact is we need to feel the heart pain that a mother feels when her kid is abused. We need to feel that pain equally. And I think that's a great place to start. If we can, we never understand that if we're not that person whose kid's been abused, whatever, okay? But or we've been abused ourselves, whatever it may be. But I think we need to start to understand and be more sympathetic to the victims and feel their pain instead of just looking at it and going, "Oh God," you know, on the news, like, "Oh, Rotherham, you know, hundreds, thousands of kids abused by grooming gangs. Oh, anyway, yeah, what's for tea," kind of thing. That kind of mentality needs to stop.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I remember when I was living in Thailand at the time. And when this all sort of started really coming to the foreground, I remember watching, I think it was BBC or something like that, the only channel I could get out there. And I honestly had tears running down my eyes, hearing about these mass cases that had happened.
Yeah.
And then when you look more into it and you look at all the levels from celebrities that have done it, you know, Jimmy Savile, and then you go look into government and you go further and further and you think to yourself, this is absolutely everywhere. And this is a whole new like rabbit hole, if you like. And when you start to look it can break you as well. It can break you as a man to look at every avenue you're looking at in life and realize there was paedophilia in every single avenue where you're looking, whether it's celebrities, whether it's a community, whatever it may be. And I think people choose to switch off from it because they just don't want to go down that avenue. But we have to. We have the, you know, we should have the moral courage to go down that avenue, I think. Like many of you guys, like you guys do, all of you on the show do, you know, come on this show, who do that. We should have that moral courage.
I think a lot of people got their heads in the sand, and when they see something like the abuse of children on TV or the latter, they just stick their heads in the sand until it does happen to them. They're not interested. But we've got to change that mentality within them to make them realise it could actually happen to them and their children and their future children's. And we've got to stamp this out because it's a major problem in this country. Britain is classed as a paedophile capital of Europe, for instance. We can't let it carry on. We can't. Yeah. It's so sad. So sad.
If there's anything that people want to stand up for and fight for, then, you know, and you're not interested in politics, like most of us truly are not really that interested in politics.
No.
But, you know,
the enemy is.
Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. You know, we know the enemy is. I'm not interested in some Conservative. I'm not interested in some Labour person. I'm just interested in trying to stop all these problems. And I think it's a very good message what you guys are saying there about it all stems down to abuse of children and protecting our children and stopping the abuse of children. And I think if that is something that we can all look at and go, do you know what? You can relate to that in some respect. I think most people know somebody that's been abused. That's scary. Had this conversation with someone else and like, yeah, I almost know, you know, I know people that have been abused or whatever, you know, and there'd be people out there as well that know somebody that's been abused. That's just really, really sort of kind of scary to realise the scale of what's going on.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, I try and say to everyone, just because I'm white doesn't mean I'm talking about white kids. Yeah, when I say children, I mean every single child, because it doesn't matter what colour you are, what culture you are. There's kids being abused every day out of us all, like, you know. And I'm just fed up with people going, "Oh, he's another white man talking about white fucking kids again." But it's not the fucking case,
Mate,
it's a message with Black Lives Matter, because all children matter in my eyes. Like, I mean, regardless, they're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. And just a quick one. I remember this. There's two stories I've quickly got, if you don't mind me just quickly covering.
Yeah.
One was in Afghanistan. I remember this little girl. She must have been about 8 years old when I was, you know, looking at her from the position I was looking from her. She was in the middle of a field, and she would come out every time around when the sun was starting to set. And the reason the Taliban would do that is because the sun was shining in our eyes, so we couldn't see fully. So when we had fired at each other, you know, it was very difficult for us to identify their positions. But she would come out at the same time every day because the Taliban used to force her out because they knew that British soldiers wouldn't shoot in that direction. And they would shoot behind her. The same principle happened actually in Kurdistan. There was this little girl and we were pushing forward. And I remember that ISIS were on the retreat, if you like, and we were going through villages and just make sure that, you know, there was people surrendering and stuff like that. And it's just a horrific, you know, bit of a mad situation. And I remember there was like a small sort of firefight, and there was this Kurdish girl in the corner, bent down. Again, she must have been 8, maybe 7, I don't know, screaming like this with her hands over her ears. You know, that's what I fight for. Okay, to stop this kind of stuff.
No.
The abuse of children comes in many forms, as you know, but that's an abuse of how they were using her. I don't know what happened to that little Kurdish girl. I don't know. Previously, was she on the ISIS side and she was probably raped? Nobody will ever know. Only she knows that, you know. And she grows up, and luckily she went into Kurdish hands and she was a lot safer. But with the little girl, you know, in Afghanistan, I had as much care, even though I've never spoken to her, never seen her, as I did my daughter.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So to see when they were firing and you could see her like just screaming and that, it's fucking upsetting, you know. And that's what people really need to realise, that, like you said there, both of you, that children are innocent in all this, no matter who they are.
No.
When they grow up in a country that they just so happen to be born in all conflict, and they're being abused and used, I have as much love, and I mean that with respect, as much love for that child as I would my daughter. And that's why it really upset me, and hence why I went and done what I did, and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that because it's quite a real moment.
So to go through abuse in whatever way, just because you was unfortunate to be born there, is unbelievable. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree. It's regardless of faith, whatever it is, mate. The children is innocent.
Yeah,
it's only the world that makes them cruel.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's the world that determines the human, the human race. And honest to God, when a kid is born, he's not born a radical. He's not born a psychopath. He's developed, or she is developed into that by the world around them. And I just think this message actually why I'm doing this for you, actually, it's really made me think that the message is even stronger than what I thought, actually. That people should unite just over the future of our children.
Yeah,
I think that's the way forward.
Well, like you said, the future of our country depends on it. Actually,
yeah,
it does.
Excuse me. I really do think that is the way forward.
Yeah,
because we fight over so much political ideology within patriotic groups. I think we have to find a common ground, and this is the common ground. That's the most important ground as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, while we're on talking about unity, how do you think we can get everyone to unite and stop all this bickering amongst ourselves and just, and like we said, like just fight for the children?
I think. You want me to be brutally honest?
Yeah.
There's some right totters that are involved in stuff that want to disrupt it, and no matter what you do, they will do that. But they can be the biggest pain. So some people are literally in it just to make some sort of, like, I don't know, they get off on arguments and stuff like that. I think those people need to be ignored, and the way forward is, prominent, good people are doing this properly, to meet up and say, right, what can we do in our community and what can we do in our community? But we are united together in our message for, let's say, for protecting the children. And that is the only way, face to face, not necessarily using social media to, advertise things and do things, but actually face-to-face meetings and actually coming up with, prominent community leaders, whoever, and saying, right, this is what we're going to do in this community. What's your problems in your community? Well, we can do this. And neighbouring communities, this is where it's important. So, say you've got Wales, for example, and you've got the North or something, yeah? Those neighbouring communities can help each other. That's their job. Don't worry about what's going on in England. Don't worry about this and this, because we get too distracted with everywhere. Because we all have the duty to protect our local community, I believe, anyway. So if you've got that section done, South, same. Then you move to different parts of England and they work together, yeah? Under a unity of basically what we've just said here, but doing it in a way that you meet face to face, not on the internet. The internet creates so much hassle for everybody because what you type can be interpreted in 12, 13, 14, 15 different ways. But it wasn't meant to mean that, and it leads to an argument that then leads on to such and such. The people behind the keyboard, we don't know who they are. But as you guys know, face to face, you can't hide much unless you're like, really working deep undercover for some reason. So I think, local communities have a representative, and then you can unite around your local areas in sections. And that would be definitely the way forward. And obviously, we need to concentrate on everything that goes on in the UK, but to concentrate more locally. Sometimes we forget that the stuff's going on locally. Yeah. And, we go wandering off the other side of the country and try and solve that problem. And really,
we do it a lot
locally.
And I'm glad you pointed that out because, obviously, we're based in Wales, obviously Cardiff, and but we do a lot all over the UK. But the main reason why you'll see us more in England is not because we want to be in England, and that's no disrespect, but we want to be doing it at home. But for some reason, at home, everyone has got their heads in the sand, and even though I would go out there on my own, I've got no issue in that. It puts you down because you're standing there on your own all the time. So now and again, it's nice to have the numbers behind you, so you don't feel lonely,
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and I get that some areas are not going to be prominent as others, are they? Like you said, I think we had this discussion before, didn't we? You were saying about it, and it is very difficult, and that's the other issue. It's a complex way, but I think unity can be done in just going back to roots, grassroots, and I use that word. Think how the left operate, yeah? And I'm putting it in their way because I'm going to say this now. They are very successful of where we are today. They are successful because they have operated in such a professional manner. And I don't like saying that, but they have, where they've infiltrated everything, right? They've outwitted patriots at every angle, and they have. I hate to admit that and say that, but they have. And they have the system on their side, which is, a huge advantage. Yeah. So to reverse that, we have to go back to grassroots, and we have to go back to community projects, community structure, working within our local communities, and actually, say you do a demonstration, right? Yeah. And doing it near a council estate. Before you do that demonstration, go around the council estate, give leaflets out on what you're doing. But while you're doing that, go around and pick up rubbish around that estate. That sends a positive community message that we are not bad people just to be here and drink, cans of beer and start, gobbing off. We're actually here to help you, And that grassroots level makes a huge impact. Because when someone turns around and the media go, well, these football thugs or whatever are doing this and that, the people on that estate will go, no, they weren't. They were actually cleaning up around the estate and handing out leaflets, and they're very pleasant. Yeah. And that can change the tide of things, just small things like that. Do you know what I mean? Where you actually go out and do, deprived areas, you go and help out a bit. I don't know, do food drops or whatever it might be. I think you guys have done that before, haven't you? We've been out and give to the homeless and stuff. Yeah. That goes a long way. That goes a real long way. because people start to think, well, these are outstanding people of the community. At this point in time, if you go and do a demonstration, we are not outstanding people in the community. We are just far right thugs.
Yeah.
And that's what the community will always think of you, regardless how polite you are. So you have to try and change the wave of what the media do with all their money.
Well, what we're going to do now is bring Katie in, and she might have a few questions to ask you as well.
Right, okay.
It's me, for gosh, of course I've got fucking things to say.
She's always got something to say.
Well, you brought up the matter of kids, so yeah, I'm going to stick to that one instead, because I want to get you on separately to talk about the military side of things. But yeah, in regards to the kids, obviously when people go off to join war and they go off to join the army, the majority of the time they're thinking about protecting the people in the country. So coming back, being a veteran, being back in civvy land for don't matter how long really, what's the difference you've seen between military family and civvy family?
Military family, sorry. As in while serving, do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So while we're serving, the difference between, I think, and I mean this respectfully, the community around of which you normally have a married quarters, you live in a house, that community is then an estate of people that are married and have children, whatever. It is like the UK used to be back in the day, if you like, let's use that term, and everyone looks out for each other. As in going back to what I said earlier about community, literally, yeah, you could play out there in the front of the house, and you know that the other kids are playing. Everybody knows everybody, because we have our, you know, the wives might have like their local tea mornings where they have, you know, tea and biscuits or whatever and chat about things, and that is like, it is the perfect, you know, idea of a close community. Basically, that's the difference. And what you see outside is, unfortunately, because of the media and the powers that be, that breakdown of community has been brought in. So things like, you know, people like us that are trying to, you know, stop all this kind of stuff, our voices are not heard because the left like people not to have that community structure, because it's very strong. I think it's one of the most powerful weapons we have as a people.
Were you ever based in Germany?
No, I wasn't.
Do you know? Have you ever heard about the community? What the community is like in Germany compared to the military family?
No, not really. If I'm honest, yeah.
I'll tell you, because the community in Germany is a lot like the military community. I was based over there for 6 years. Yeah. And, you know, we were the military quarters where we had the married quarters. It was on a mixed estate where you had German families mixed with English families. And you'd see the community within the German, land was the exact same as how you've just described military family. And that's the same within the campaign. Have you noticed that being similar within the campaign, some of the campaign circles?
Yeah. No, definitely. And that's interesting that it was mixed families as well.
Mm-hmm.
There. So that's really, really interesting.
The first estate I lived on was called Mutterskamp. And both our next door neighbours were both German families. They weren't part of the military, just standard, you know, normal families you got over there. But they'd look out for you just like the military family look out for you. They came to parties and everything at the same time. So you got that proper community there wherever you went, even if you were new. We would walk down the street and they'd say hello to you. Yeah. Do you think that'd help England now, that sort of community that the military held?
Do I think it'd help England now, or?
Yeah, do you think if we had that sort of community, or if we started to build that sort of community back up, do you think that'd help the issues we currently have in every cause, in every aspect?
100%. I live by that trait of community. Yeah, probably. Why? Because I believe that community is the police, is the eyes on the ground, is the change, is every aspect of life. Community covers that, if that makes sense. So I'm not saying the police are. What I'm saying is you police yourselves, because if people are looking out for your kids and you know the person right and left of you, you have a more safer environment. Like you see now in London, I can take London as a fine example. You can live in London and not know your next door neighbour ever. And that is a scary place to be, because when something goes wrong, if you're stabbed or something and you're outside your house, they literally look out the window and shut the curtain because they don't want to get involved. So there is no safety net, and it goes all the way down to the children as well. When they're out on the streets or whatever, there's no safety net. No one cares. That's why you have the gangs that we see that flourish in London, well, most cities now, because there is no rules, there's no repercussion, and there's no, there's no society, if you like.
100%. Oh, right, this is going to be a two-part question, this one. I'm going to start with the negative because I want to end on the positive, right?
Yeah.
What do you think the consequences would be with causes like the veterans and similar to the veterans uniting with causes like Children Matter and the children's rights causes? I want to start with the bad consequences first of that, of them working together.
Bad consequence of them working together? I don't think there is any.
And that's why I wanted to start with the bad. So what do you think the good positives could come of it?
I think we have more in common under the fact that we are protecting children, because all of us, well, if we're not parents, as Paul said earlier, we will know we have nieces, we have whatever, our next door neighbours have children, and children are the most vulnerable in society. So I believe personally that would be our number one protection point, because like I said earlier, we have failed. You've not,
because you've still got younger generations like me that have still got a head on their shoulders and still have that respect that the military fucking teach their soldiers. So you've not done anything bad. The only person who failed in this is the state and the education system in the way they indoctrinate people. It's people like you and the veterans that actually make us realise that actually no, what we've been learning in education, what's being force-fed us through the media, isn't actually true. So I don't think you failed in any way. I think it's just a learning curve for a lot of people because everyone learns differently.
Yeah. No, that's a very fair point. I would say, when I say we failed, I didn't mean the veterans community. Sorry, I meant as a nation. I believe I don't, and it isn't like us lot all do something, don't we? And we try our best, but I mean others as well. That the whole community we've kind of failed. You know what I mean? Like we've let these monsters intrude onto our, into our privacy. At the end of the day, the absolute abuse of children is you can't get more intrusive into privacy than that. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean veterans, but yeah.
No, but I actually agree with you now. Sorry for interrupting. I should have let you finish because I actually agree with you. I do think, as a society, as a land, I do think we have fucking failed massively. I mean, you described what the estate's like in London. My estate, since I've come back from the UK, when I've been living here, I'm opposite a foster carer who's helped me out from the get-go. My next door neighbours, we're touch and go, and if we get along or if we don't, but the majority of the time we're all right with each other. But obviously the rest of the estate I've had issues with. You'll see in summer, like the households that get along with each other and can tolerate each other will actually get together and they will actually have barbecues at one another's place. Well, when we start doing hedges or fucking cutting the grass, we'd go round and do the households we get along with as well at the same time. But they still didn't step in and do anything when it came to removing my daughter. One of them actually escorted me from my house, let the police into my house first, and then escorted me with my daughter through the estate, down the road to the social worker's car, and then I had to walk back without her. The whole estate was out, and you do see some of those community atmospheres, but you don't see much of them. Yeah. So it's trying to rebuild that back up, but it doesn't take much to rebuild it back up, you know what I mean? And people seem to think that it takes a lot. It doesn't, it's just doing those little things. But yeah, I do agree with you on that. There was one question that I have technically, pre-warned you about at the farm that I was going to ask you. And we said we're going to do it at a later time, but technically you've already brought it up. So I'm going to ask you again anyway, and I'm going to put you right on the spot and do it live.
Yeah, go on.
Would you consider joining Children Matter? we're there, and obviously we want to help get the right people's voices out there who are fighting for what the children need, which is a future that they can be safe in. It's the streets that they can play in, and a country that they can be safe to walk around in without threat of abuse, murder, rape, fucking stabbings, whatever's going on in whatever towns.
Can I just go in before you go, please?
Yeah.
Give us a couple of minutes to think about it. But tonight is going to be potentially one of your last lives on social media in your name. So obviously, I want everyone to get involved and give the respect to you that you deserve, and say thank you very much, and then respect to the future. But obviously, the future is down to you to tell.
Yeah. No, let's say behind the scenes, of course, I would always support all of you, 1,000,000%, and I mean that. Obviously, on social media, I will no longer, after tomorrow, be active on social media because of my work. I've had to, I'll PM you about it anyway, Kate, so you know a bit more. But I can't physically because I had a lot of changes today, and I've developed in a course. I'll tell you about it. Basically, it's nothing.
That's not a problem. But before you answer the question of Children Matter, though, you just to be aware, everyone has their own position and does whatever they want to do. We have a mass portion of Children Matter that don't do anything publicly or on social media, and we have moderator ones as well, which faces are never there. So if you wanted to have that support and that team there and family community that we're all fucking trying to build, you're more than welcome to join it, and there's no pressure to do anything. We wouldn't force you to come in front of things. But I do have a habit of putting people on the spot, and technically I've just done that, asking you on a live.
No, fine, honestly, don't worry. Channel 4 done it, and I looked to right to it. No, it doesn't matter, don't worry about it. I'm so used to it. No, honestly, I support you. And I'll talk to you off here why I can no longer carry on with social media because things have changed. Regardless, it's no influence from anyone. It's just my career, and unfortunately, the world we live in, we're not free.
At the end of the day, you've got to put family first. No matter what you're doing, no matter how you're doing it, family always comes first. Yeah, you've got a whole family here with you as well, but we're not the immediate family. Your immediate family comes first, and that's always going to be the case.
Exactly, and it's been 10 years. I've done it a long time, and I think now it's good for me to actually, from behind, if you like, help out. If I can do anything, honestly, I will for you guys, all of you, because you're just fantastic. And I saw that when we all met up and had a good old laugh, and and
you missus thought I was like 17 or 19 or whatever it was.
Yeah. And she's already 10, she can help.
Yeah.
So she's in.
She's absolutely amazing. Fucking love her. Someone put in the comments earlier and asked if you were single, so I just put in the comments now, and his fucking missus is amazing.
She is an amazing woman, and she's very dedicated.
Ken wants to know what is actually happening with your elephant in the room page.
Sorry, who was that?
Kenton.
Okay, I will. That will have to be removed because my Facebook's comes down and my YouTube channel as well will be removed. It's just that I've lost 15 jobs since I've done this, and I can't afford to lose any more. It doesn't mean I'm silenced. I've got the long-term plan as well. That's all I'm going to say. Because even though I'm dyslexic, I'm not a bad little writer, and that's all I'm going to say. And one day I will write a book that will get me banned from this country.
Yeah.
But that's another thing in it. But no, I'm with you guys 100%. As long as I can help from behind, do whatever, even with my running and stuff, maybe raise funds and bits and bobs to help you with what you're doing.
To be fair, the aim of Children Matter is to help everyone else, which in turn actually helps us. So you'd fit right in anyway, to be fair. And I think I'm sure we've got admin on that chat that haven't even put in the fucking chat for a year.
Yeah.
But it's all that community that you get with it, because it is literally everyone from different causes standing united with each other for the betterment of the country. Because it's not just about the children. You can't create a future for the children without fixing the country, which benefits the children. If it benefits the children in a way, then you are fighting for the kids. Doesn't matter what the name of your cause is. It could be against corruption and abuse. It could be veterans. It could be non-Scatchers Northern Ireland. So I just seen Kenny's name pop up, so I had to say it.
Yeah.
You know, the kids don't suffer in just one way. Kids suffer in a mass of different ways at different stages of their lives. And if they've not got adults, you know, people who have actually been through the system, who have actually learned from life and got the tools to go along with it, then the children are the ones who are going to suffer from it.
Yeah, exactly.
And part of that's trying to keep them within the family, whether it's with the parents or whether it's with immediate family or just within a birth line, because even that helps massively.
Yeah.
It's stopping people getting losing jobs, ended up on the dole, ended up on the streets, putting themselves in dangerous situations, just having a community there. I think best times of my lives were when I was living in a really good community. And it helps massively, and it helps kids mature, and it helps people actually keep going. And I'm a big believer, right? I'm just going to say this because you're a vet. I'm a big believer that we shouldn't have the vets on our streets. The vets have fought for our fucking country. They've fought for our rights. They've fought for what, you know, the ground that we walk on. So the vets have done their job. They've done what they went out there to do. It's their time to have their pension, to retire, to relax and enjoy what they fought to protect. So we shouldn't have the vets standing up and doing this. We should all as people be doing it, but you don't see it. And it's forced the vets to have to come out and do it.
That's a very good point. When I came back, when I left in 2012, I went on to do security and stuff abroad, and I had a good income and all right life, and then I just wanted to go fishing on weekends. I just wanted to spend time with my daughter. I didn't want to do this. You know, through all of this, if I'm honest, it's created. I don't see my daughter as much. There's a hell of a lot of sacrifice, you know, and it's not just me. There's loads of people, all of us, sacrifice so much, and I really find it. And what you just said there is a very good point. You know, like, I'm not saying I want to put my feet up and have it easy. And I never wanted red carpet, and I'm sure most veterans will say we don't want red carpet, don't want anything. We just want an equal chance in the civilian life, you know, where it's a good life, you know, where it's, you know, as you said there isn't the problems that we now see in society. And honest to God, it breaks my heart. And if I don't shed a tear once a week, then bloody hell, there's something wrong with me. Yeah. And I shed a tear once a week. I'm not scared to say that, because it means that much to me to make change. And I've always said it to other veterans and stuff that have called me crazy at the start. You know, they used to say to me, "You're a lunatic." Like, what's up with you? Like, everything's all right. And obviously now they see a big difference. But I would say to them, even if they hated what I used to do, and there was some people in my battalion that hated me. All right. I don't care about that past anymore. Move forward and just do what you see is right, and try and make change and help people. You know, I think that's the way forward. And yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask one last question, and only because I asked the lads the other day, and then I've shot. They keep laughing at me because I keep saying that, but I asked the lads the other day, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to do it. And Phil, if you don't mind, I'm going to take control of the screen for a second to do it. Great, Brit. Hope you're on fucking standby. Right. My question to you, Tim, is what do you want your message to be after all of this? What message do you want to leave?
My message would be just basically for all people to really look into what's going on, to stand up and be counted in the way they see fit. It doesn't have to be how I've done it or any of us do it, but just stand up for the next generations. Otherwise, you are accountable for what goes on in the future. And I truly mean that. If you do not stand up, then do not complain with what happens in the future. And that's really my message. It's simple. It's not about the rest of our lives. Our lives are already going to be pretty shit, let's be honest. okay, and we're going to live in a world that is just going to get worse and worse. But we have to leave some sort of legacy for our youth to understand that change needs to happen. And that's all it's about. Don't look at your own life, look at others, and look at the youth and the kids for improvement.
Awesome, Tim, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for coming and joining on, and thank you for coming on Children Matter. I'm going to pop in the background and leave the guys to speak. You're a fucking legend.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up, we just want to hit on mainly PTSD, because like obviously you lads go through combat PTSD. We go through the abuse side of PTSD. So it's trying to get the message out there for people that haven't gone through stuff to understand, basically.
Yeah, PTSD is a complex subject in the veterans community, and I think one of the most important things, what you just said there, is it's not owned by the veterans community. Yeah. Let's just make that right first. That there is people that suffer from, it can be a car crash to abuse to being in a conflict. So I always say that PTSD is always it's not owned by the veterans community, you know. Obviously, talking as a veteran, I don't, suffer from PTSD. Okay. Has war affected me? Of course. So, yeah, I'm human, but I don't, have nightmares every night. I'd be lying if I said I do. I don't. But I know friends of mine that really do suffer from PTSD, and it is real. Okay. The wounds you can't see sometimes, and I mean this with respect, can be worse than the wounds you can see, because you're dealing with a lot in your head. And this is from experience with helping people that I've served with and stuff, or I know. They're screaming, but there ain't no one listening.
No.
And I think the suicide rate you see in the veterans community is just horrific. And I actually feel as well for the people that aren't veterans community, where they're saying they've got PTSD, and they get, a lot of people look down their nose at those people because they think, well, what are you on about? You haven't been through anything, but you don't know what that person's been through. And I think that's really important, that we understand that people have been through different paths in their life, whether it's war or not. I think being abused for years and years can be a lot worse than going through a conflict, because you're in fear continuously, every minute of every second of every day, by the abuser that's abusing you. Yeah. I wish people would take it more seriously on all fractions, not just on the veterans community, on all, would take it more seriously. And this is the other thing with, like, just going back to grooming gangs. How many of those girls will have PTSD? What percentage will take their life? What percentage will be hooked on drugs to numb the pain? What percentage will have drink problems to numb the pain? And this is where people don't realize. They think, oh, that, the community, I mean, like, general public.
Yeah.
They think that abuse happens and that's it. Oh, yeah, they just grow up and it's fine. That shit stays with, they've literally, they might as well have murdered them. And I know it sounds horrible, but they might as well have, because they've just destroyed their heads.
Yeah.
And these are our young girls, Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but
because, like, obviously, like we say it all the time, yeah, like obviously being abused and stuff like that, and like try, but it's nice for someone else like yourself to come on and explain it from your point of view. So then, because it's the same as anything. If it's the same face saying the same things, it gets missed most of the time, because people say, "Oh, fucking hell, he's on one again," like, But when it's coming from a different head, different voice, people get to listen again. So it's good, like, so you crack on.
I just wish that people would recognise all PTSD.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be seen as more of an issue than what it is. From the veterans community, from that perspective, back in World War I, it was shell shock, but all that was PTSD. What we've now have learned, developed, and understood within how the mind works that we now realise that was PTSD, but they used to call it shell shock. So it's not new either. And it wouldn't have been new to people that were abused, say, in that period of, let's just say for example, the 1910, 1911, whatever, around that period prior to World War I. People were still getting abused. Do you know what I mean? Maybe not on the scale we see today, but they were still getting abused. And that was still, there was no recognition for that in those periods, So we have to develop together as a society, I think, from all aspects. And I definitely think that PTSD cannot be owned. I wouldn't wish it to be owned by the veterans community because it underlines people that have been abused. That's really.
Yeah, thanks for your comments on that, Tim, and a lot of respect to you, mate. Have you got any news on your upcoming fight, or is that still on the back burner as such?
That's definitely going to happen. £765 has gone to the Welsh Guards charity. Obviously, I've done it because I moved to Wales. So that money's already with them. That went direct to them. It didn't go via me. It went direct to them for what we raised. And then, that fight will happen. I'm just waiting on news of when, obviously because of COVID and stuff. But things are easing up. So as soon as they get it, hopefully people that have got tickets will get like a good month's notice. Do you know what I mean? So we can all plan and that.
Yeah.
Do you need some more coming off social media? Do you need some more support? Say some people might want to go to watch you fight now because a lot of people have seen you on the live stream, and they probably will support you now, Tim, as well. Extra people will probably want to come to watch you fight.
Yeah, well, sorry, Phil, go on.
So if you're coming off social media, would you like some of us to message you and pass the details on to about other people who would like to see you fight?
Yeah, just use Telegram, no problem. And that's fine. I have got tickets left, but I'm not selling them until I've got the date.
All right.
Just safety at the moment. But everyone who's paid for their ticket, I've got your ticket, got your name down. It's all done. But if anyone does want tickets, as soon as I get a date, then I will sell tickets because I don't want to, obviously sell more tickets to something that we don't know, what's going on with. So,
understandable, mate.
Yeah, just go through yourselves, or there's a few others out there as well. I'll put a few bits out before I leave social media, but no, definitely.
Okay.
Anything else?
I don't personally have any more questions, but so we are going to wrap it up now. If you stay on the live stream, we'll have a little chat afterwards. Thank you for coming on. And people, please support ACCA and Children's Matter and subscribe. And could you also please share? We need to build the groups up. So we do really need your help. We do need to make a change in society.
Cheers, Tim. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A lot of respect. A lot of respect.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night and stay safe.